Zambia has grappled with the problem of indiscriminate waste disposal for many years now, and so far many solutions which have been put up to try and contain the situation have proven to either be less effective or completely not working at all. One solution which Zambia can adopt in controlling waste and effectively managing the environment, which is proving to be highly effective where it is being used, especially in developed countries, is recycling. Recycling is a process to reuse useful waste materials by converting them into new products to prevent waste of potentially useful materials, reduce the consumption of fresh raw materials, reduce energy usage, reduce air pollution from incineration and water pollution from landfilling by reducing the need for conventional waste disposal and lower greenhouse gas emissions as compared to plastic production.
Well, in the simplest terms, recycling is the process of picking up something that was ideally thought of as garbage, but then you process it into something like a new product that it can again be reused.
There could be different versions of the component of recycling. There is a process where you get a product, out of an old product, you process it to come up with a totally new product. There are others that where you can reuse the same product, of course after intensive cleaning, you are able to reuse that product. Essentially it means you are not entirely disposing of this product. You are able to use it again in another form. It could be in the same form or in another form. For instance, plastics, they are recycled. You can either use that plastic, others they'll clean it, though it's very difficult, but we've seen the companies that are getting these plastics and they're able to recycle them, and they're coming up with other materials which are using totally different from what was the original product which they had. So that would be the simplest terms in which one would describe what recycling is, for the sake of the layman.
Recycling is the way. It will really help us. I know of one institutions which are doing that, although it's for their in-house arrangements. So recycling must be emphasized as the way forward to handle this. After all, we shall benefit in terms of the garbage will be recycled, like the solids, the liquids, and the paper.
Recyclable materials include many kinds of glass, paper, metal, plastic, textiles, and electronics. The composting or other reuse of biodegradable waste such as food or garden waste is also considered recycling. This is a necessary activity of modern-day Zambia that will help solve the age-old problem of indiscriminate waste disposal, which has proved to be a nightmare to control by the local authorities countrywide.
Currently, there's a lot of garbage generated on a daily basis in the Lusaka city. It raises a lot of concern.
With regard to cleaning the environment, again, it's at the two different levels. At the lower level, you're talking about there being no plastic in the drainages, there's no littering anyhow, because people see the value in those items, and so they don't just throw them away. Because as long as, if down my street, for instance, there's a recycling point where I can take 10 plastic bottles or a bucket of plastic bags and I get some money for it, I will not throw that material on the street for somebody else to pick it up and take it to the center. I myself will take it there. And so what you see is a reduction in the amount of litter that's just disposed of carelessly. But then again, on the national level, what you see is that there are certain types of materials that don't biodegrade. And so the practice of picking up the refuse from the homes or corporate entities and so on and dumping it at the landfill, what you're creating in that scenario is a double management of the refuse. where you are taking it to landfill, and then you have to manage it again at that location, because when waste begins to decompose or biodegrade, it creates certain gases. Some of them are very, very toxic, some of them are very, very inflammable. And so you're creating a point of either danger or a point of catastrophe, because your landfill has to be managed properly. Otherwise, you then have people getting into contact with the wrong type of chemicals, the wrong type of waste. So when you're thinking about recycling, you're then talking about avoiding the mixing of these types of material. So you're going to take your plastic, it will be reprocessed into another new product. You're talking about taking your chemicals, and they're either broken down either in a furnace, or they are just handled properly, as opposed to everything ending up in one place, thereby creating this concoction, because everything is just mixed into one big place.
I think the situation, the way it is at the moment, we have all these challenges with waste management. The good number of the stuff that is deemed to be waste, there are things that can be either recycled, reused, or otherwise. But the system we have at the moment is whatever is deemed to be waste, it has to go to the landfill. Hence you find that there is a lot of waste that is generated, and the collection capacity is quite low. And you find that there are so many piles of waste lying around uncollected, for instance. It's because of the huge, production of waste. Of course, waste and the population growth, you cannot separate them. The population is growing. I think for Lusaka, if you look at the Central Statistics report, it's talking about maybe about 4.9% growth of population, and it tells you that the growth of population also, it has an impact on the environment, not just on the development of infrastructure, but also it means that you need to upscale the provision of services, and one of them is the higher the population, the more generation of waste, and so you need to look at the increase in capacities to be able to match the production levels, which is not the case at the moment.
Recycling not only benefits the environment but also has a positive effect on the economy. Recycling is reported throughout human history but has come a long way since the time of Plato, when humans reused broken tools and pottery when materials were scarce. Today, there is a multitude of benefits that come from recycling, as well as tons of items that can be recycled.
Recycling helps in many different levels. If you talk about recycling at the national level, for instance, recycling helps reduce the importation of raw materials, because some of the material that you process can be reused. So it means you're not importing virgin material that you don't have. And then on the manpower side, it helps in the fact that recycling can be done at different levels. At the lower level, you can just have people picking up plastics or paper, and that can be giving them some income as they sell those materials for on recyclers. So at the different levels, at the lower level you have income for the people who do the collection, but then at the national level you're reducing the amount of money you're paying in foreign exchange for raw material. So it kind of like subsidizes your importation requirement.
The aspect of putting value to waste, we should not look at waste to be something dirty, but something that would create employment to a way of life, something that will sustain someone's life. Because if we put value to it, people will start scrambling for waste. If we say we are buying paper, at a particular price, people will be able to scramble for this paper. Instead of it getting to the environment, people will claim it and they'll be able to sell it, and you will not see the papers around, you will not see the plastics around, and that is the importance of these recycling companies, because they will need those materials for them to remain afloat in their business. So there is this high demand and supply. chain that would be created. Okay, so as much as there is this demand from the company, it means that they will need supply of these materials, and it means that everyone would take care of the waste. We've seen some countries where they don't have waste anymore; they have to buy it from different countries for them to be able to use it either for generation of energy and so on.
You see, we are in a dynamic world, but that a lot of people, individuals, companies, institutions have come up with this master plan to arrest the situation, more especially in Lusaka and along the line of where. And we just pray that the government department entrusted to handle the situations, like the local government, can come up with a policy or can institute their policies, like the ones they've talked of in the PF manifesto. That can be followed. I'm sure this garbage will be utilized in a lot of ways and means. Of course, now we even think of recycling. These days, certain companies, certain countries, they're even buying garbage, if you're aware, because they are recycling every bit, which can be replicated in Lusaka or Zambia in general.
Some of the economic benefits of recycling include that if properly run, recycling programs cost the government, taxpayers and business owners less money than waste programs. Studies show that by continuing to increase positive recycling habits, Zambia can create thousands of jobs annually. People can even make money by collecting approved materials to a nearby recycling facility that will pay for the product. For every one job created in the waste management industry, recycling creates 4. These are some of the examples that show how recycling can help in economic development of a country like Zambia. There are numerous benefits to recycling, and with so many new technologies making even more materials recyclable, with everyone's help, we can clean up our Zambia.
There is a lot that they can do, depending on the materials which they are reclaiming from what is called waste. What they need is to advertise. And being in business, you cannot grow without spending. And the expenditure is on advertising. So they should be able to come out and show themselves that they are available, and the type of business they are doing is to get these materials which are just thrown all over, and they're able to buy it at a particular price, and they educate the people. And I'm sure that a lot of people will be interested to get these materials and sell, because we, at the end of the day, all of us, we need money to be able to survive. Living in the city is quite expensive. Whatever you do, we need to pay for it. So why not have this money which is coming almost on a silver platter? There is nothing that you're going to spend, apart from you going around to collect the type of material a particular company is looking for. Then you take it for sale. They'll be able to pay you for that, and you have something at least to buy something for the family.
Okay, mainly let's empower. There are a lot of people, like for example, Dr. Foxdale Shopping Mall. They are doing an in-house recycling of this garbage. It's a mixed type of arrangement where they have a restaurant, they have a takeaway, they have offices. So a lot of garbage is generated in terms of liquids, solids, and paper. But they've come up with a deliberate policy that every client must know where to throw the paper, the bin, to throw the liquid, to throw the solids. And for our own information, the solids are recycled into organic fertilizer, which they are using within their gardens, and it's always a green all the time. Actually, they call themselves, they've gone green. That can be replicated at a larger scale and empower somebody there You know, there are a lot of unemployment. The government can empower these youths. They can empower someone who has a passion to handle this recycling, and it will be all over.
So, with regard to recycling, that means different things at different levels. For instance, at the policy level, like I said, recycling needs to be taken seriously. Just the way we're taking farming. We're talking about industrializing our country, but industrialization will bring a lot of garbage. It will bring a lot of garbage, but nobody has thought about what's going to happen to that garbage. And so it's going to be like firefighting. Once the garbage is there, then, oh, what do we do now? When in fact, what should happen is that as we're talking about industrialization, the thought about what's going to happen to the waste should already begin. How do we maximize the value of the refuse and not take it to the dump site? Who else is going to be able to take up what's going to happen? We're talking about industrializing so much to the extent that we're going to have a lot of agriculture in the country. But farming comes with chemicals. What's going to be happening to the chemicals that expire, the chemicals that are no use? What's going to happen to them? Are we just going to empty them into the river? Then, regarding that national level again, first it has to be a priority for everyone. The country, the ministers involved, everyone takes it as a priority. Secondly, once it becomes a priority, then you develop a policy for it. The policy guides everyone. The policy guides the recycler, the manufacturers, even the people at the household level. The policy also helps make recycling viable. Because right now, for instance, if you wanted to do recycling, that's the other level, the equipment level. The first one is the policy level. The second one is the equipment level. Recycling is capital intensive. You need a lot of equipment. And equipment is not cheap. And because we are a society that is trying to adopt recycling, we're having to get these technologies from countries that have been doing it for many, many years, especially the European bloc. They have been doing recycling to an extent where some countries have targets that by 2020 they'll have zero waste to landfill. There'll be no landfill at all.
The inappropriate and often careless handling of both municipal and industrial wastes, including those that are hazardous, has all too often created problems for human health and the environment. It is also a known fact that sustainable environmental and natural resource management plays a vital role in the socio-economic development of a country.
We have adequate laws. It's not just about Lusaka City Council. There are so many players. The Zambia Environmental Management Agency has a stake in it. So when a company is given, for instance, to set up a plant, whatever business they do, there are other stakeholders who are involved. So it's not just the council, but suffice to say that there are adequate laws that guides whatever type of business one wants to take. Even the process of awarding, there are adequate laws under the Zambia Procurement Agency, which guides on what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So in terms of laws, I would definitely say that we have adequate laws that guide us. So we wouldn't just do something which is not in the interest of the country and also detrimental to the health of the resident. So we are protected by adequate laws in the country.
It is, however, impacted quite significantly by policy. You see, when an industry where there is no policy, the people who have the power are the recyclers. If I'm a recycler, for instance, and there is no policy that governs how I should treat people who bring me this raw material, I just decide how much money I pay for the material. And so what happened is, I could be the one exploiting the people who are supposed to be making the money out of recycling. And so without a policy, it's very difficult for people who collect the material for recycling, for it to be viable for them to create some significant impact in the kind of money that they get for it. Because I could just choose, like, I'll just get a plastic of water disposable bottles, for instance, and I'll just pay 1 kwacha for the whole plastic. When in fact, if there's a policy that says I have to pay 5 kwacha, I'll be forced to pay 5 kwacha. But that difference in the money ends up with the person who collects the bottles. So that's the significance it can make economically. But minus the policy, it's very difficult because the same recycler can be the exploiter at the same time.
The government, through the local government, must have an open-minded type of approach, such that probably like we have the M phase where I'm sure there are so much benefits. They should open it up to individuals, to SMEs, not just to these big companies. They should open it up to that level so that anyone who goes into recycling will be able to be assisted in one way or another by the government.
What I am aware of is that in Zambia we have legislation that talks about how garbage should be managed. Like you have the Zema Act, which talks about how refuse must be disposed of and where and what can be disposed of in what kind of way and using what kind of method. But with regard to recycling itself, there is no policy. And that's one of the reasons why the rate at which recycling has taken root in Zambia hasn't been championed at the national level, because as far as I'm aware, there is no policy. Policy is one of the catalysts to recycling, because once government decides that as a nation we're going recycling, and by 2030 or whatever year target we have, we say we're going to be recycling 100% of material, then everybody is forced to comply in a backward model where you start small and gradually you meet that target. But as long as there is no target at the national level, as long as it's not given priority, that is something important that we should do as a country, it will never take root as fast as it could. In other countries, the reason why they have instituted that kind of policies is because they're thinking now of what is being referred to as a circular economy. A circular economy is an environment where your raw materials, at the time you're producing the product, you already know who's going to take over what you refer to as your waste. So another company picks it up, they use it, whatever waste they generate, another company picks up. So the material is just revolving within different players in the manufacturing industry. So that becomes a circular economy. What that does then is that for each of those different players, it does reduce the cost of the raw material because it's already available. The catch is always that it must be in the condition that is usable for the next on-taker, because I cannot be looking to process plastic, but I have to work through a mountain of bottles, nails and other contaminants. It becomes difficult. But as long as what I need to get from my upstream producer of the waste comes to me in a clean manner, then I have no problem with it.
It is important for all stakeholders to get involved in waste management through making recycling a focal point so as to reduce on diseases, clean up the environment and help speed up economic development for the people.